Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to give a couple minutes here to allow folks to join us, and we'll get started momentarily. Okay, looks like our enrollment has sort of leveled off here. So let's get started. So once again, welcome everyone to our webinar today on Pennsylvania's free lead and drinking water testing program for early childhood education providers. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to join us. We know your time is very valuable, so we hope to make this worth your while. My name is Joe Lucchetti. I'm with Terraphase Engineering, the company running this program on behalf of our state. And I've been working on projects involved with lead in school and childcare drinking water projects since 2017. With me today are a few folks from our team. Most importantly, our main speaker is Kelsey Sherrard, and Kelsey also has a lot of experience with our drinking water projects and is prepared to inform you on how this program works. And then we can, as a team, answer any questions you all might have today. So I wanted, before I turn over to Kelsey, I wanted to make sure you all knew beforehand that we have you on mute, and then we ask you stay on mute for the first part of the show. But if you have any questions for either the speakers, or if you need technical support to hear us or see what we're presenting, you can utilize the chat window with the GoToMeeting, as you see here on screen. And if you have a question that you wish to ask out loud, you can raise your hand, use the button on that panel again. You can see it there underneath the mute button. And we'll have you speak during our question and answer period. So without further delay, I'm sorry, one more thing. We have a few handouts for you today. Also in that GoToMeeting toolbar, you will see a handouts section. And we put a few things in there that you might find useful. So now, without further delay, here is Kelsey to tell you all about our program. Take it away, Kelsey.
All right. Good morning, everyone. As Joe mentioned, I'm Kelsey Sherrard for Terraphase Engineering. I'm in snowy Reno, Nevada. I don't know if you can see it outside my window. I've been involved in a couple of these lead in school and daycare facility testing programs, and I really appreciate you all taking the time out to join us this morning. Before we get started with the presentation, I would like to ask everyone if you had tested your facility for lead before, if you've tested the drinking water for lead before, and if you could please fill out our quick poll, that would be great. We'll just see where we stand right now with who is familiar with testing and who maybe hasn't had any testing, but obviously you're here and you're going to get lots of information today.
All right, looks like we have over 50% voted at this point, so we can go ahead and share those results.
All right, so we have some that have tested and many who have not. So thank you for responding to the poll. So 18% yes, and was it 82% no?
That's right.
Very cool. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about the program. So it's a free testing for lead in drinking water program. It's voluntary, and it's self-testing with expert support. That's us here at Terraphase. The goal of the program is dedicated to reducing childhood lead poisoning as a public health problem. That we would like to, during this program, test over 2,000 child care facilities, and we're well on our way with that goal. Hopefully after this webinar this morning, we'll have even more facilities to add to that list. We're prioritizing disadvantaged communities. It's a program funded by the EPA, a grant of $1.7 million. And it was acquired by Governor Wolf's 2019 Lead-Free Pennsylvania initiative with assistance from the OCDEL and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Health and other state agencies. It's administered by the Pennsylvania Infrastructure Investment Authority, known as PENVEST, and Terraphase is involved. We've been contracted by PENVEST to run this program. Next slide, please.
Hey, Joe, this is Josh. Really quick, I think your screen stopped sharing. So if you could reshare your presentation, that'd be great.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone, for bearing with our technical difficulties. There might be a few just getting the wiggles out of our presentation.
Looks great.
Yeah. So about Terraphase, we're a full-service environmental engineering firm. We've had a lot of hands-on experience with testing different types of facilities, mostly elementary schools and childcare facilities. Our experts have collected thousands of drinking water samples. I have been heavily involved since 2019 with different programs throughout the country. We have a hashtag here at Terraphase, hashtag do it 4 a.m. the kids, because oftentimes when our samplers are out there sampling, it's very early in the morning. They have to get the first draw sample, so it's before any water can move through the pipes. So before any toilets can be flushed or irrigation be run or people washing hands, etc. So in order to get that first draw, we have to get out there very, very early. And so we have the hashtag do it 4 a.m. the kids. So next slide. So our approach has always been holistic and centered around transparent communication. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of planning and logistics that go into not just collecting the sample, but sharing your test results. It's definitely more than just putting water in bottles. And through all of our experience, we've learned many lessons. It's impossible. Well, I could give a presentation just on the lessons learned. So we're not going to go all through that today, but we understand that the decision to start a lead testing program at your business can seem daunting, but it's a very worthy goal, and we're here to help. And we feel that we've streamlined the process to make it as easy and quick and painless for you as possible. Next slide. So we want to protect the children by reducing dangerous lead sources before they're exposed to them. So why test? Testing is key to prevent kids from being exposed to lead. There are many health impacts, which include developmental delay, learning difficulty, irritability, vomiting. They can get sick. They can have trouble focusing. There's many adverse side effects to being exposed to lead when you're a little kid. So it's important that we test. And to understand where lead comes from, it can be found in paint and soil. And those are the primary exposures for lead in children, but it can come from drinking water. So it's important that we test. Next slide. So we've got this little infographic, which comes from the 3 T's program, which is training, testing, and taking action. So testing is the first step in removing the danger. Part of this program is to build awareness and know how to respond to questions. It's important to note that if people think that lead, if a child is exposed to lead, that they're automatically poisoned and their lives are over, etc. But that's not true. So it's really important to know about lead exposure. It's accumulative. So knowing that it's there, we can address the problem and take corrective actions. Next slide, please. So one common misconception is that only old buildings are at risk at having lead in them. And so if you have a newer building, that you're safe. But there are other exposure pathways inside of buildings. So it's important to test nonetheless, even if you're in a new building. So the water that comes into your building is getting tested regularly. So your public water supply should be lead-free. But, and the way we get clean drinking water comes from a series of environmental acts that date back to 1986. And you can tell from this slide, you know, we've got the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1986, then the Lead Contamination Control Act of 1988, Lead and Copper Rule of 1991, Drinking Water Act of 1996, and the 2011 Reduction of Lead in Drinking Water Act. So we have many of these federally regulated laws to protect our public water systems. But as I mentioned, there are many pathways inside the buildings. So next slide. And those pathways include soldering at pipe joints, sediment buildup in the fixtures, and potentially just the rusting of old pipes themselves. You never know, you know, even if it's a new building, say your plumber brought some old piece of pipe, you never know. So it's important to test. And there's just this little infographic here about your faucets and your fountains and where that sediment can build up, like I said, in the, you know, in the corners of joints of pipes, etc. So that's why when we go to test, we do the first draw, because that water is going to rush through and blow out any of that solder or sediment if it does exist. Next slide, please. So I'd like to review our program process. And our process has included outreach to school and child care facilities. We're working on training with the 3 T's, that training, testing, take action program. And this is just a little background information. So if you do decide to participate in the program, the first step will be to enroll. And Joe, can you click through these as I say them?
You got it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So next step after enrollment, which is it's a very easy process. We give you calendar dates and times so you can pick a specific slot that works with your schedule. And then there will be online training videos, which will take up to 30, 40 minutes tops. It's pretty easy to understand. And then you create a map for us, and we develop a sample plan. So once we identified all the fixtures to test in your facility, we figure out a sample plan. So say you have a kitchen where it's used for food prep, we would target that for sampling. Whereas if you have a janitor closet with a sink in it that's just used to wash out mop buckets, we wouldn't target that because no one will be drinking from that fixture. After sample plan, then you meet with somebody like me or Miles, who's also in our program, and you talk with an expert on the phone. I've never really had an interaction that took over 30 minutes. It's pretty easy once you've done the training videos and we've identified your sample locations. We get it done quickly and take you through what you'll do on the day of sampling and answer all your questions. And so after you talk with an expert, you'll receive a free kit in the mail. So your sample kit will come with all of the information that you need. You can always refer back to our training guides if you have further information. And Terraphase is also available via email or phone call to answer any further questions. So we're here with you the entire way. So once you have your kit, you can collect the water sample. That's the first draw of the day. It's very easy to do. We can have you collect on weekends if your facility is very busy during the weekdays. We really are here to help figure out what works best with your schedule. And then after we collect the water sample, you ship it back to the lab and we have an expert review. So those test results come back within 14 days. And if there's nothing, if the samples come back non-detect, there's no further action. But if you do have detections, we walk you through the next steps. And then after expert review is the share the results. So this involves communication with the families, the staff, anybody who's occupying the building. And following that, we can walk you through the steps of what to do. So you're not alone through the process. We're here the entire time and even afterwards. So if you do have any detections in your water, we can discuss remedies. And I know that can sound really scary, but there are, as you'll see in our next couple slides, there are some very no cost options or low cost options for repairs. So thank you, Joe. We're on the next slide.
Hey, Kelsey, this is Josh. Just giving you a 15-minute update.
Thanks, Josh. I won't be too much longer. So one of the first things people ask is about when they're looking into the program is there money to pay for repairs? And the answer is some cases yes, but it partially depends on where you're located and how much money you need. But realistically, you won't need this funding. Most repairs that are necessary to be made are low cost or no cost. And the low costs are so low that you can make them yourselves. The two best examples for what to do when you do need to replace or do need to take action for detection is that we replace an old fixture or we install a filter that's certified for lead removal. And nowadays, those really aren't costly. But either way, we send you a free test kit. And if you do decide to replace your fixture or you install a filter, then we send you another free retest kit. And so we make sure that you're effectively removing the lead hazard so that you can drink from that outlet in the future. If you do end up having a larger issue, Terraphase, like I said, will stick with you through the entire program and we can work with you to find other options. There are private grants and other types of funding available to you. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, is there money to pay for repairs? And the answer is we will work with you to find those funds if you cannot take care of them yourselves. But there are some no-cost options. No-cost options would include eliminating or removing the outlet in question that tests high for lead. So you can post a sign that says this sink is only used for hand washing, or you can post a sign that do not use this for drinking. So that's one of the no-cost options for repairs. You leave this sink or drinking fountain or whatever, or sorry, you wouldn't use a drinking fountain for washing your hands, but you would just put a sign at that sink to remove it from a potential source of drinking water. Next slide, please.
All right. I think that's my cue, Kelsey.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Take it away for some questions and answer time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we appreciate all that information. So at this point, we are going to kind of transition to question and answer. I see some folks are entering some questions now. So this is a reminder that you can either raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can ask questions, or go ahead and type them into the question box and we'll read them aloud in a second here. In the meantime, I'd like to trigger a couple more poll questions with help from Josh, and hopefully everyone can respond to those while we're waiting for some questions to roll in.
Hi, everyone. So the first poll here is, are you interested in talking with Terraphase, with a Terraphase expert about the program prior to enrolling?
So if you answer yes, we'll be happy to follow up with you personally, and we will do that. So we'll let you guys respond to that for another few seconds here.
All right, looks like responses are slowly rolling in now, so I'll go ahead and close this. We have a 50-50 split, so as Joe said, Terraphase will be following up with everyone after who said yes. We'll have your emails in the attendee report, so look out for that. Our next question, before we get to the questions that have been rolling in, is, what are your primary concerns about potentially testing drinking water for lead?
Okay, we can see some answers rolling in. This should be helpful for everyone just to get a sense of what the common concerns are. Looks like we're already up over 50-60% here, so that's good. Now, is there a way for me to share those results on screen, Josh, when you close them? I couldn't tell earlier in the show at our first poll question if that was being shared or not.
Yep, it is. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. Since you're sharing your screen, you might not see it. And
yep.
Organizers also have limited restriction, but it's been a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and close it and share now. And what you see on your organizer screen is the same thing that the attendees are seeing now.
Great. Okay, so yeah, I think that's good to know that the majority of people are not worried about messing up the sampling. We do have a pretty well laid out training plan for you, and yeah, I mean, everything here, what to do if you find lead and how to communicate, is all part of our training plan. So this is good to see. Excellent. Well, we appreciate everyone's responses there, and I'll go ahead and transition the next slide. We wanted to prepare. We have some frequently asked questions that we could look at, but I do have a handful of questions here that I think we could address. So let's see. Okay, here's a good question. Is water testing mandatory in Pennsylvania? So I'll take that one. It depends on who you are. As a child care, no, water testing is not mandatory in Pennsylvania at all. This in particular is 100% a voluntary program. So again, Kelsey mentioned it earlier, the goal is protection of public health, but it is not mandatory. So I hope I answered your question there, Michael, and if not, feel free to follow up. I see you also asked about copper. Copper can be a concern. It's not a primary concern, and that would fall more under the realm of the public water company tests, as Kelsey was pointing out via those series of laws. The public water company will test for lead and copper as it pertains to the drinking water sources in your building. The most concerning issue is the lead, and that's why we focus on that. Go back to the top of the questions. We had an early question came in from patients. We don't use city water except for cleaning. Is bottled water, do we need to test our bottled water? This is one of the questions that we were hoping to address as well. So the reality is that we know a lot of facilities do not use the water provided to them from the city or the water company. The bottled water you don't need to test. However, one of the things we like to promote is the testing, so you can go back to relying on the provided water. Restore confidence in that drinking water, and it will save you money, frankly, because we know bottled water is not cheap. So that is one of the goals. However, we would not recommend that you sampled bottled water, and it wouldn't be covered under this project in particular, this program rather. So thank you for that question, patience. All right, here's one maybe I can throw your way, Kelsey. This is Monica, and she says she has gone through the program. Thank you, Monica. And she's in the process of having fixtures replaced. How soon will she request a follow-up test kit and see the results of said remediation? I believe you've worked on some follow-up testing consultations, Kelsey. You give Monica a sense of timing on that?
Yeah, so it's really about your schedule and what you feel comfortable with. If you know that those fixtures are getting remediated soon, you can request the kit now. We say 5 to 7 business days for our kit to arrive to you, but it usually seems to arrive pretty quickly. So it's really whatever works with your schedule. I'd say it doesn't hurt to plan ahead.
Yep, I agree. Good answer. Okay, here's one from Christine. Family daycare at her home, 3-story bath, 3-story, 3-bath, 1 kitchen. How will she test? She has new water lines put in the block just this past month. So I'm assuming that means the water line, the water mains out in the street. So that shouldn't affect your testing scenario at all, Christine. In your case, it is what we would call a pretty routine scenario for us. You should, enroll in the program, take the training, and you can plan out your sample event for any of those outlets, be it in the bathroom or the kitchen, that you think you will need to draw water for drinking purposes. That could be all of them, could be one of them. That's up to you, and that's something we can help you figure out with your training and with our consultations. Okay. Oh, here's a great one from Nikesha. So, do I have to draw a big schematic to submit prior to testing? Kelsey, you want to field that one?
Yeah, so you don't have to draw the entire building. We just ask for a 2D map of the floor plan where the activities take place. If you do have a building schematic that we can use and just draw on, that is helpful. But oftentimes I can even draw you right now what it looks like. It looks like
No, great idea. was going to say, we didn't have any of those in the slide deck that we decided to share.
Yeah, so let me just do this real quick. Let's see. All right. So here's a quick schematic. It's a beautiful drawing, as you can tell. So really from my quick schematic, I would identify that, one is an entryway, there's a living space, we got a kitchen and a bathroom. So just during our consultation, if this was the schematic you sent me, I would say, well, looking at this, it looks like we only have 2 potential fixtures that you could sample from. I would say the bathroom and the kitchen, but is anyone really drinking from the bathroom sink? And you'd say no, only hand washing happens there. So really we've identified that only testing needs to take place in the kitchen. And it's really as easy as that. So your map would maybe even say like a 1 and a 2 on it to identify that there are 2 fixtures in your home. And we would then go from there and say, oh, you really only need 1 sample bottle for that 1 fixture. So it's easy as that. It doesn't take a lot of time, and you don't have to be an artist. I hope that answered your question.
Well, I think it did, and I know that's another common misconception. So thank you. That's a great simplistic approach. And again, it's just so there's some level of documentation on what is transpiring, where the sampling is conducted, and so that's all we're asking for in most cases. So we're going to wrap up here the webinar. We don't have any more questions coming in. We did have some FAQs on the screen. So hopefully those are helpful as well. A lot of folks are concerned with, downtime, closing their business for a day for either testing or in response to lead coming back. The answer is no. There's no. Not only is there no penalty for testing and finding lead, but there's no reason to have to close your business. This is not going to interfere with your business. So. So we really, we hope this was informative for everyone. If you responded to wanting a follow up with us, we will do that. But otherwise, we're going to sign off, and we really appreciate everyone's time today. So thank you, Kelsey, for joining me on this, and hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Thanks, Joe. And I look forward to speaking with people who are signing up for the program. We hope to talk to you soon.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, everyone.